Say on trains.
Okay, that's good. That's happening. Good evening, all. First up, and preceding the actual strategy results meeting itself, I've got Nikki Phillips from Wokingham Borough Council, who's come along to talk to us about the Wokingham Borough Town Centre strategy. Welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, floor's all yours.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, excuse me, who is chairing this, and can we start official committee meeting without chair? I know that he's coming.
Yeah, the formal meeting will start afterwards. This is a presentation.
So,
Pre the meeting, so we'll do that before the meeting starts. Yeah,
thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, so saying, so as I think some of you are aware, we are in the process of developing town centre strategy for our 3 towns. So for Woodley, Twyford and Wokingham. They will go through the exec in November. So at the moment, what we've done is we've put together a lot of data and a lot of research. And what I need to do at this stage really is come and talk to you guys, because the data only tells half the story. It's what's behind the data, and that's where I need you guys to kind of help me, I guess, fill in some of those gaps, but also to start that conversation around what you want for Woodley as a town. So I've done a brief sort of presentation that we'll go through. It's going to be quite hard to see, I think, seeing it like that. But what I'll do, as I've said, is I'll send it to Kevin, who can then send it out. Okay. So firstly, why do we need a town centre strategy? Well, I think just, a bit of background that you guys are probably aware of anyway, but things like, with the rise of online shopping, we know our high streets are really suffering. Flexible working has had an impact on the number of people that are in our towns. And there's also been some legislation coming recently around change of use of high streets. So again, it's more flexible for businesses to be able to turn into flats, etc., which again is having an impact on our high street. So there's a lot of changes and a lot of things that we need to kind of address really to make sure that our towns stay viable. One of the things I think is quite important is really about sort of starting to change the narrative. We can't bring back the big anchor stores. There are, our high streets are suffering, as all high streets are effectively across the country. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There's actually an awful lot of positive, but it's about changing that narrative of not sort of harking back to what we did have pre-COVID, because we're not probably going to get that back. What it is about looking at actually of how can we move our towns forward in a different way based around that sort of experiential, somewhere that actually has lots of opportunities, lots going on, and people want to go to our towns rather than trying to compete with the online retail. What we need to do is position our towns differently. By the way, you can interrupt me at any point if you've got questions.
Thank you.
Okay. So what have we done so far? Well, we've analysed a lot of data, which I'm going to talk you through in a little bit. We've looked at sort of business diversity. We've looked at what is the community and cultural offering in towns. We've looked a little bit around climate change, transport, and equality and diversity impact and health impact assessments that I'm in the process of doing at the moment. So out of all that and looking at all the different strategies and referencing it, what we've done is we've come up with a couple of, I guess, principles that we think apply across all our towns. So these are like the want for every town, which I'm going to go through with you in a minute. Then I'm going to talk through some of the data that specifically relates to your town, because then what we need to do is create a vision for each town, because you're all different and one size won't fit all. Okay, so the bits I'm just going to go through next are across all our towns, and then we can talk about what we can do individually. So looking again at what's important to us as a council and looking at our other strategies, we would expect all our towns to be healthy, thriving, community-focused towns. We want them to have that arts and culture. We want them to be places where communities can meet and be together. And we want them to also be somewhere that encourages healthy lifestyle, facilitates social interaction, and is somewhere that actually is a nice place to be. And that applies to whichever town we're looking at. We also want them to be supporting businesses. We need to make sure that we've got that sustainable growth in place for our towns. So we want to encourage innovation and support the new businesses. It'd be amazing if Wokingham, if we could position ourselves as the borough to be for startups. If we can get that support and that nurturing right, it'd be amazing if new startup businesses were like, well, actually, let's go to Wokingham because that's a good place to start your business, right, across our towns. We want to ensure then that the residents have the skills that business need. We know that's the lifeblood of any small business retail. They need to have the skills. So we need to look at what we can do for that and how we can support well-paid employment. It's about creating that inclusive and fair economy because we want everybody in our borough to be able to access those jobs. Also look at what is our competitive advantages and our strengths, and again, increasing that cultural offer for our nighttime economy. And then working towards a carbon neutral Wokingham borough. So again, we need to make sure that our towns are and communities are sustainable places. And we need to then sort of take our businesses and our residents on that journey of that behaviour change to understand how we can support them to address the climate change. And also that links to some of the public transport. We need to make sure that, you know, all our towns are connected. And then finally, the final point is working in partnership. We can't do any of this without you guys and without the businesses and without the community groups and the residents. And that's really, really key. And I think that's something that maybe hasn't been as fully there as I'd like it to be in the past. So, you know, we really do want to make sure, don't lose that. Hang on. We want to make sure that we are fully committed to that partnership and that stakeholder. So once we've got the town centre strategy in place, that is just the first point. That's the first stage. It will then be action plans, working groups, and we really, really do mean we want to do this with everybody. Okay, so those are kind of the overarching principles. If no one has any questions on that, what I'll do is move on to talk about, yeah.
I have a question.
Sorry, that Woodley actually is thriving despite the fact that the car parks, people complained about the amount of charges in the car parks, which are really difficult. But Woodley only has one place now that isn't filled, which is NatWest building. So in fact, we must be doing the right things because we're actually very popular. We haven't lost the amount of businesses that other towns have, and Woodley is a thriving community. So what are you actually going to do for Woodley in this? I mean, Wokingham is full of empty shops.
Yeah.
The town and the car parking is appalling in there. I mean, people do not want to pay the extra car parking charges, and that's what's causing a lot of trouble in Wokingham, and I've been there and talked to the people. You know, the fact is, Wokingham seems to have lost its way because the shops cannot afford to keep going in that area. And they used to be individual little shops which encouraged people to go to Wokingham because it was different.
Yeah.
But now there really isn't all that much to go to Wokingham.
I think there is a lot still to do in Wokingham. I actually do think there is a lot of really good shops, and I think there is opportunities. There is parking issues everywhere. I agree with you. That is something that I don't know what is the solution for parking, but I understand there's an issue.
It's a great deterrent, parking prices that they are.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I know.
I go to Wokingham because the bank's there, but if the bank closes, then that'll be the end of me going there.
Yeah, I do understand. Limited in what I can do around parking, if I'm being honest. But in terms of what we can do for Woodley, you're right, Woodley's actually doing really well. If I come onto the data in a minute, I can sort of show you some of that, like the footfall data, and you can see that actually Woodley's doing well.
Yes.
And then I've got some ideas around things we could do to support Woodley, which again, I'll come on to a little bit later. But what I'm hoping is you guys might have some of those ideas and solutions as well. Sorry, I don't know the gentleman's.
Robert, would you like to ask me a question?
Yes, please. And I do tend to miss some words because of the microphones. You might have said it, but what I heard was at the start, you said the three towns within Wokingham, Twyford and Woodley.
Yes.
You didn't mention Early, which is a town,
Oh, God,
and Twyford isn't a town. It's actually, and Twyford's actually a village. It isn't a town. So it's just a little bit of clarification on those points there, please.
Yeah, I think it's always sort of traditionally been those three are our town centres. They are classed as them. We did do a bit of discussion around Lower Early because you're right. It is, and I think what we decided was at the moment just to focus on the three. But the next sort of phase effectively would be to look at actually, you know, the other areas, look at our parades of shops and maybe see what support and additional things we can do there. But at this stage, we decided to just keep it to the three that have been traditionally seen as our towns.
Yeah, but as I say, Twyford is a village, it isn't a town.
Yeah.
I'm saying, Robert, if you define a town as having Waitrose, this is spot on.
Okay, shall I move? Oh, yeah.
You have mentioned in your presentation to connect three towns, and you have also mentioned about bus service.
Mhm.
Is there any plan to have bus service between Twyford and Woodley?
So I believe there is a one bus. Is it the 1, 2,
No, it
8?
doesn't go to Twyford. It goes towards Sonning and then some other parts.
I will double check that because I was looking at that only earlier today and looking at a bus
It covers
route.
one part of Woodley, but not entire Woodley.
Right, I think so. I will double check, but I was looking at a bus map earlier because I was trying to work out what buses go from Woodley precinct to Wokingham, and there is one, but it goes through Twyford.
It comes to Woodley, then it doesn't cover entire Woodley, only one part of Woodley,
Right.
then it goes towards Sonning and other areas.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we
Fine.
know about this because we're in discussions with Twyford councillors and Reading Transport. We're trying to put a new bus service from Loddon Park through to Twyford.
Right, so Loddon Park to Twyford, there is a gap. Okay, fine. I will make a note of that. Thank you.
And my second question, I don't know if you are going to cover that in your next section or not. Is there any, you have a formula strategy to divide financial resources among three town centres?
Divide financial resources.
Yes, because it's just a joke or criticism in social media when Woodley Town Centre will be like Wokingham Town Centre.
To be honest with you, at this stage.
shops.
We don't want that.
I
wouldn't mind
say
if
in
you had
terms
some.
of renovation and other stuff.
At this stage, I don't have any financial sort of plans or ways of funding things at the moment. At the moment, it's putting in place what is the strategy, what is the vision, what do we want? And then I guess we can look at how we go about achieving that. So at the moment, no, I don't have any information about how to do financial support for Woodley. Okay. So business diversity. So having a little look at sort of analysing, we did all the towns against in terms of who you have here in terms of what sort of businesses. We looked at the number of commercial units that have a shop front. You have quite a lot of eating establishments, which is probably no surprise to you guys. You also have a high proportion of those are takeaway services. Again, probably this is no surprise to any of you guys. Your, I guess, diversity is not as diverse as I know you would like it to be. You only have, for example, one clothing retailer in Woodley, and you do have 3 supermarkets, but I appreciate this is not news to you. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, so footfall. Now, this is, but I know everyone will be interested in terms of your footfall, in line with sort of national trends, your footfall has not returned to pre-pandemic levels, but it hasn't nationally returned to it. Actually, out of the 3 towns, what's interesting is Woodley has bounced back the best. So you're 12% down on where you were pre-COVID. But if you look at like Wokingham and Twyford, they're 23%, 39%. So actually, you guys, as you said, you know, you are actually doing really well as a town. You have a lot going for you. And in terms of your bounce back, it's been quite good. I did just make a note with the parking because I know it was something that I think you guys would want to sort of see, but we have footfall data now that we were able to access, and the footfall data is based on mobile phone data. So in the past, we've had sort of sensors on pillars that have taken the footfall, but now it's on mobile phones. So you can actually see individual people as opposed to it being, hello. As opposed to it being, if you shop like me, if it was on a pillar, and you go up and down 20 times, it would count you as 20 people. This counts individually.
And does this say how long the people stay in Woodley though?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm able to sort of see dwell time as well. So it's quite interesting, and I can go through some of that with you. So you can see here that your footfall actually went up in 2023. And as I said, I did a quick sort of chart from the footfall sort of dashboard I have, and just put a little arrow to where the parking charges came in, just so you can sort of see, you know, that actually your footfall went up. I do appreciate parking is a big issue, and this only tells half the story. But in terms of footfall, it did increase.
Well, did that count the fact that we've got a thriving market and we are doing all sorts of things to bring people into Woodley?
Yeah.
Because the people still don't like the fact that the car parking charges are so high for a town which really doesn't have a huge amount of variety.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that. Okay, so then time spent in towns. So again, having a look at this sort of thing, you can see that majority of people visiting Woodley do so for less than an hour. And that hasn't changed since 2019. However, overall, people are spending less time in your town than they were before. So in terms of that sort of popping in, you are getting more of that than people spending big chunks of time in the town.
That's due to car parking charges.
Also, in terms of the times that people are coming in the town, I thought this was relatively interesting as well, in that, you know, no surprise, you are down in the early morning, but that's probably people working from home more, less commuting. So you have less people coming in now in the morning, but you've gone up later on in the day. So if you see sort of, you know, late afternoon and into the evening, actually, you've had a real increase. And I will, as I said, send these round because I appreciate it's not always easy to see that. But yeah, so you've had an increase in that, which I think is really, really positive. And it means potentially there's opportunities for evening, nighttime economy here, because it seems like that's, you know, I know, Brian, you said, you know, a couple of the places here have been doing some really great things, and it's clearly having an impact. So there's obviously a demand. So that's, I think, a real opportunity for Woodley.
Good morning. Apologies for late. My plane didn't land until 4:30, so from Malta. The morning session is there. Some of that could easily be workers who used to go into the car parking.
Yeah.
Massive increase for them, and they are now parking in the side streets. Yeah.
Possibly, if they're walking into town, they'd still be picked up though.
No, okay.
And so depending on where they work,
so they would.
Yeah, they might be parking elsewhere, but if they're walking into town, they'd still be picked up walking through the town. But yeah. The other thing I think is really interesting is your catchment area has shrunk. So you've actually a lot more local than you were pre-COVID. 50% of people come from RG5. So you've got a really local feel.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, the data. So because it's mobile phones, it tracks where people come from. So it's able to tell me from where you've come from. So looking at the other towns, for example, Twyford has exploded, but that's because of the Elizabeth line. So theirs has gone and you can see it. But yeah, for you, it tracks the people on their mobile phones and their journey. So I can also see hotspots in the town as well. So I can see how long, which areas are busy, etc. I know it's a little bit Big Brother, isn't it? Being tracked by your mobile phone, but really useful for things like this to be able to see. Yeah. If you don't have your mobile phone, you don't exist in my town if you don't have your mobile phone on.
That's actually quite, it's great to say it's getting more local, but it actually means the potential for spend in the town is reducing.
Yes, absolutely.
That it's not sustainable. So, for instance, the pet shop, it was no longer sustainable.
Yeah.
And they had to close.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Local is good in some ways in that you can build that community and that identity, but absolutely that opportunity for more pounds is obviously going to be less. Okay. I also thought you might be interested in the age of people here. So again, you probably aren't surprised, but in terms of your age compared to the national average, you have more people over 45, 50, and your largest age group is 60 plus. That's very similar to Wokingham and Twyford as well. So with this data, and I have more data that will be in the strategy, this was just really to give you sort of a snapshot of some of the things we've been able to look at and see to try and understand about your town. What we need to do is now think about what does that mean for Woodley, and what can we do in terms of developing your vision that is going to be right for you and how we can support you. So a few sort of things, I guess, that I sort of thought of was one, some of the challenges that I think are here is concerns over footfall. Even though your footfall has gone up, I appreciate footfall. As I said, it still isn't back to where it was COVID, and I hear what you're saying about the parking and the businesses. And lack of business diversity, I know is something people have mentioned quite a few times to me, that you just don't have that full range. And concerns over antisocial behaviour. I know, again, that's an area, and I'm looking at the moment to work to get the full data picture for what that looks like for Woodley as well. But what I do think is, again, from looking at some stuff, there are some really good opportunities here. And I think, looking at the fact that you have a pedestrian sort of section of your high street, there is that opportunity for pavement cafe culture, in particular around the fact that you've got outside performance spaces. Using parent power, I think, if you have people doing performances, you have children doing performances on there, parents, grandparents, people will come in to see those performances. And if you've got the right kind of cafes and people sitting there, people will sit, hopefully, and enjoy the space. So I think there's an opportunity maybe to expand that. I think also you've got, obviously, the theatre here. I think we can do more with that, and that can be a way of drawing people in. And I think then potentially there's that opportunity to develop that nighttime economy. But those are just my thoughts from having looked at the data and looked at different sort of strategies and things to see. What I need to know is whether you think I'm on the right tracks, and whether that is a kind of a vision that you would want for Woodley, or whether it's like completely different.
Could I just make a comment? It's I was elected on the town council before going on to Wokingham Borough. And since going on to Wokingham Borough Council, I've been liaising with officers. But from the get-go, in terms of being a Woodley town councillor, I have to say it's been incredibly frustrating to engage with highways officers at the borough. Because we've got, the amount of times I've reported trip hazards. We talk about cafe culture, but some of the paving in Woodley Town Centre, you could joke that it looks a bit like the Himalayas, because the way that in some parts of it, and I've reported these repeatedly, there's regular flooding problems with the drain, which hasn't been maintained for about 10 years outside Iceland, through no fault of the officers here. But what I get told is, oh, that's highways, so it has to be Wokingham Borough Council. We had an example not so long ago where there was a great big delay over a single bollard, which again was reported to Wokingham Borough Council. I'm a councillor on that council, and I've been trying to get things done. Seats are taken away from the play area; they're not replaced. We badger and badger, and I have to say, I am frustrated as a Wokingham Borough councillor that we're trying to get things done, and there's long pauses where we don't get any responses. So I hear what you're saying about a strategy, but the borough just isn't getting the basics right. So I fail to see how we can get all this excitement stuff when we've got elderly people falling over with trip hazards. I was in Bosco Lounge as one example, having a coffee with somebody, and another lady fell over a pavement that, is a trip hazard.
Yeah.
I think, Greg, I was going to be raising the point there.
Yeah.
What we need is part of that strategy has to include a strategy for highways and green, whatever, because the weeds and what have you in the area are pretty poor.
Right.
There needs to be an embracing strategy for highways maintenance, etc. Because you can do all of these things. They're great, and you can build it up and build it up and build it up, and then you have somebody who gets tripped or actually ends up in hospital because they've broken a leg, and that disappears, and it's now going to take another 3 years to build up.
No, I agree with you. And one of the things that, and I do absolutely hear what you're saying. One of the things, as I said to you, that I really want from this strategy is it is the first point, and then we'll put in place those working groups. And out of that, from the strategy, we will have maybe a highways kind of working group together to look at those issues. And so,
while we're actually talking about it, we regularly have a swimming pool in Waitrose car park, which is never fixed.
right.
And that needs to be done immediately. It's ridiculous. People will not come in to Woodley if they can't park without going through a flood.
Okay.
And it is a huge problem, that's one thing.
Can I just add to that? Sorry. What it needs.
Can we give Keith a microphone, please? Can we give Keith a microphone?
I'll move up.
Yeah, right, come up to the table.
I didn't want to stop going slow, but what they'll do is just get cuddly. It's they'll just come in and jet wash it, but there's something fundamentally wrong there.
Yeah.
They need to almost lift everything to understand, because it's been like that for 10 years.
For years, yeah.
The last time there was big flooding, because in that corner there's a pedestrian crossing, okay? That used to flood horrendously, and eventually I managed to get them to have a look at it properly, and they found what had happened. There was a couple of trees, they had destroyed all the pipework. So they had to effectively stop the road, rip up and replace it, and we haven't had it since. It needs that sort of attention, not, I will send somebody around with a dino rod.
And it's been reported
Many times, many
By
times.
residents, by councillors.
Over 7 years, one resident told me. She's got a case history, she's got binders. 7 years of raising it with Thames Water, Wokingham Borough Council, and it is related to trees. Keith's right.
Do you want to take?
Robert did have his hand up.
Yeah.
Robert, did you have a question?
No, it was only so I couldn't hear Keith. That was all I was asking.
So, what we've been talking about now is kind of like hygiene factors, the basic stuff that you need irrespective. I'm kind of interested in your sort of, how do you see kind of a vision of stuff moving forward? Because again, if you'd said to us 20 years ago, every village you go through is going to have a vape shop and a tattooist. I mean, who knew? And it's like, that's not something that we'd have ever said, oh, we really need a tattooist in Woodley because our life is so lacking in tattoos. But so there's a kind of element, isn't there, that it's demand that drives these things. And it's do you see sort of part of this kind of exercise as a way of driving demand in certain directions as opposed to others? Or is it something that's actually organic and that we need to kind of respond to?
Yeah, I think probably a bit of both. I think you have a high number of takeaways. I personally would like to see you have more actual restaurants rather than just takeaways, because that brings people in. So I think that would be a good thing. I think it is very much led by what the demand is. I know one of the things that Brian has said, to encourage new businesses to come in, you need to have good data and good information and to be able to show a good relationship with the council. So again, what I'm hoping this strategy will give Brian is those tools to be able, when someone approaches, to be able to say, well, actually, you know, this is the relationship we have, this is the data, this is your footfall, so that actually we can bring those new businesses in. But who they are, yeah, I don't know what the next big thing in the town will be. So I mean,
it's interesting you're talking about you know, the sort of food outlets, because I mean, it's a nice place, you can get something to eat in Woodley, but there isn't somewhere you want to spend an evening.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to spend a romantic evening in any of our restaurants. So
Why not?
how would you understand? Oh, well, you're a cheap date, friend. It's just so it's like, how will we find out if we wanted to attract you know, more restaurants? How would we do that? You know, have we got mechanisms or knowledge in your area to do that?
I do them. So I work with the commercial team, and obviously, so they are out promoting in terms of you know, the vacant places, and have sort of sight of who maybe is interested. So they have that sort of portfolio. Your ones that are sort of independent, no, I don't necessarily have sort of sight of who might be interested. But I think what I'm hoping, if we can build sort of on the theatre, you know, and build that kind of arts and culture space here, actually, you'll have more restaurants maybe that are interested. And if we can then show them the footfall and show them a programme of events that maybe is happening in a theatre, actually they're going to go, actually I'd like to be there, in particular if I can sort of balance that with having really good business support for startups in the borough. So actually we can say, right, you want to come to the borough here, here's a great support, you know, package. This is how we can give you mentoring and advice. Actually, maybe that can be, you know, something we can do.
But we have to be pragmatic.
Yes.
So, you know, your good example, a romantic restaurant in Woodley, I think probably it will never, ever happen, because you can't compete with Henley, with all the restaurants down by the river. Even the Oracle, the restaurants there, our environment is, I'd love to have a romantic restaurant, but our environment is such that you're probably pushing at a closed door, closed locked 18 times. And the strategy needs to be achievable.
That's
otherwise, a strategy is useless if you're just shooting for the moon and you're never going to get there. So we need to balance that up and actually maybe even investigate certain areas and within the strategy to say, we've looked at it, we can't do it for A, B, and C. Yeah, it needs that balance.
I guess what's the strategy needs to have some objectives. So it comes back to what we're trying to do here, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do we want it to?
Yeah. What do you guys want? I mean, that just
Just a question, actually. I mean, there was at one point in precinct, I think we had 3 betting shops, which was probably 2 more than we needed. I mean, does the
3 more than we need.
yeah, does the borough council have powers to say no?
No.
No, right, okay.
It's all to do with the banding of that particular unit. And about 5 or 6 years ago, they changed the banding to make it even more wider for some of these units. So that's the real key issue about, you can't say that unit should be only for retail, clubs or something like that. You can't do that, because the law doesn't allow it.
Martin, keep in mind.
Nick, yes, thank you. I like your opportunities, 4 points there, and certainly I think this theatre here needs to do more for the community. I'm thinking of, you may have already tried this. I'm a fairly recent councillor. I've only been in the town 6 years, but Saturday cinema for kids would be a great idea in the Oakwood Centre. Jazz in the evenings. The nighttime economy, I fully support that. I was pleased that the Checkers at this end of town has brightened its exterior. But what about making use of the veranda above it for in the summer for someone for a place where people can have a drink? You know, that would be I think would be a great opportunity. Something that a bit more visionary than just, you know, a pub
Yeah.
Without, it's got no beer garden, it's got a sort of veranda area, but if they could use that space above the pub, that would be great. The outside, let me finish while I'm on the thing. The outside performance space, in my view, is in the wrong place. It should be near a Waitrose, because the far end of town is a pretty dead space, in my view, and very few people use that performance area other than in key times of the year, Christmas, etc. The biggest problem for Woodley is the backs of the shops are absolutely awful. The business units there, it's overgrown, it's cluttered, it's awful. And the street furniture in the high street, I've mentioned this to Brian and Kevin, we could do with a lick of paint on lamp columns and litter bins just to brighten the place up. We've got some lovely hanging baskets, but the street furniture is in need of a facelift. So street furniture, the backs of shops, there are so many areas of dead spaces. I walked around the back to the library. There's that nursery group there, but there's a piece of wasteland. What on earth is going on there? It's just a dead piece of space.
Yeah.
And as you go down Lytham Road, I mean, all of that side is just awful. I walk through there every morning, and it just brings me to tears sometimes. The rubbish, the refuse, the weeds. Someone needs to do something about that. And the car park, never mind about the charges, and is Woking Borough Council going to brighten up the car parks? I think it's got all this money that it said it was going to apply to car parking. That's why they put the fees up, because that's the answer I was given. Oh, we're going to apply that to the car parks. Well, let's have them brighter, lighter, and a bit more signage around. They've just put no entry on one sign by Lytham Road, haven't they?
Yeah.
But it's clutter. There's weeds in what used to be hanging baskets.
Yeah.
Let's have some beautification of Woodley.
So I think one of the
please.
things I'm hearing from you guys that's really important is that pride of place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a key,
Yes.
a key thing for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I sort of add that to, I guess, your vision of a sort of a
Yeah.
pride in place.
All I was going to just say, because it's been mentioned, Open Centre, the theatre. There is a plan that Kevin's working on, Kevin Hampton. Matthew here. Well, he's a thespian, that's what. So there is a significant plan that's going to come to SMR. Rough idea of when?
I'm aiming for November.
November,
Okay.
where we are going to do subject to agreement with the committee, and it probably have to go to full council as well because the son's involved. But a massive upgrade to all the technology in the theatre.
Yeah.
That technology in there has been there for 20 years or something. It's a long, long time. And that would play into your cinema.
Comedy movies.
Yeah.
And on the back of that, again, on the assumption that committees agree, on the back of that is actually ramping up the publicity.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, we can ramp up the publicity, but the quality of the technology in there, some people, not everybody, but some people are. If we make that absolutely state of the art, top notch, it's worthy of spending that publicity. And if we can get Woking Borough on the back of it,
Absolutely.
in the similar way, I look at Facebook far too much. That's 4 hours a day or something like that. But Woking Borough are always talking about Woking Town. Now, here's the latest new shop that's come in. Here's the latest this. Here's what they're doing. I can tell you, almost to a man, woman, and child, working at Woodley residents feel left out of everything. Any of the communication, you never ever see Woking Borough saying, "Look at this, we've got a great new restaurant," or this, that, and the other. You see it all the time.
Okay, I can change that.
Yes,
I can. That is one thing I think I can do. Our team deliver the Business Matters bulletin, and we celebrate when new businesses open. What I would say is maybe we don't know all the time, and that's our fault. We should know. But what I would say is, help us. If you know, so Brian, Matthew, if you know of a new business, let me know. And what we'll do is we'll come out and we'll write a little welcome to the town, and I can do that. That makes me feel good. That's something I can actually say. I can change a little bit. I can start promoting those things through our business
Could you do
matters.
a special issue that's a focus on Woodley, and then a special issue that's a focus on Twyford? Berlin is very difficult because they don't really have a town centre.
Yeah.
But I could see it would work for Woodley, I could see it work for Twyford. You know, how many people know we've got Iceland, we've got Waitrose, you know, we've got boots.
Specialist.
Yeah, we've got specialist places as well, we've got super drugs.
Good idea.
You
Good
know,
idea.
we probably got as much, if not more, than the town has in terms of the big nationals.
What we do need, though, are channels into the borough. I
Yeah.
mean, I sent in a thing about 6 weeks ago. There's lots of surveys go out in the borough, and they're really, you think, oh, good, actually asking people to do this. And I looked at the one was about safety, and actually it was about how going to this, how confident you feel about going out at night in your area and stuff. I thought, well, this is really interesting, and I filled it in this year. And then I looked at the figures for the last year, and 188 people in the borough responded. I thought, well, what are you going to do with that? And in Woodley, it's 22 people. And I thought, well, I know we've got about 21,000 electors, never mind everybody else. So what's that all about? So I contacted the borough to say, really interested in this and about how we can encourage people to participate. And I've waited 8 weeks, and I've chased it up today. No, we're terribly sorry, we'll get back to you. Really, and we're the sort of town councillors. We really would like to work more closely with Wokingham, and you have to chase up a mail.
Yeah, no, and I apologise for that.
Well, it's
because
not-
8 weeks. 8 weeks is not acceptable. All I would say, I guess, in the defence of the officers is, I guess they get a lot of emails sometimes, but that isn't an excuse.
It's done, because we can leverage this in the town council.
Absolutely, help
What
them.
you are doing, and
Yeah.
make sure it's also consistent and
Yeah.
and also get what we, that we like to see out of it. So, if you're not listening to approaches from your town councillors, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I agree with you, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, well, there's a long history of Woodley people do not trust Wokingham Borough. They do not trust them at all, so therefore you've got that to overcome in the first place. That's why they don't reply to anything, because they don't see the point, because everything's centred on Wokingham town, not outwards onto Woodley and Twyford. But there are things I've actually looked at. I picked it up tonight, or my husband picked it up on the Facebook. So you sent a new survey out, presumably something to do with this. There are people saying, I went into this and I had to have whatever it was, password, and then I did something else, and then I did something else, and guess what? Then it went blank. So they're not actually, the ones that are trying to actually communicate with you are saying, well, there's no point because it just doesn't work.
That's really interesting if our survey is not working.
You get an awful lot of people also who don't actually use Facebook or don't do anything. So those people are excluded.
That's the internet issue. I've raised that many times. It's getting better, but generally the elderly population are not the internet literate.
Yeah.
And the rules that were brought in, and they are flexible, because I remember for Woodlands Avenue, one-way system, they had that rule that you've got to have an account, etc.
That's it.
Password account, etc. to participate in any survey, and I got that removed for that particular survey.
Okay.
As an IT person, I understand why, they hang it on. Well, we need this because we want to communicate back to these people what's happened. They don't do it anyway. So there's got to be a change in the culture in general for surveys. But there's got to be a mechanism where elderly people who often are the ones most impacted on some of these changes,
Mm.
can fill it in on a paper. And an idea, for instance, for Woodley, make sure that there's a stack of that particular survey available here,
Yes.
because they will come and get it and
Okay,
allow that to also be the pickup point. Surveys are brilliant, but you've got to make them easy to use and understandable with English.
It's worth having a look at the RBH survey that they've had out recently about location in the hospital. And they've got so many different options about how you can input that. So you can, go online, you can use a QR code, but push comes to shove, it says, well, just write to us. And you can, so they've given all those kind of options. So I think there's two bits to it. One, how you respond to it, but also how people become aware of these things. And I mean, certainly, there was a survey around recently about SEND provision, and I was speaking to a friend of mine who has a child, with in the sort of SEND space, and then she had no idea that it was even existed. I thought, this kid going to a SEND school, so we're doing something. We're not doing really enough to get to expose it to people. And as for old people on technology, I mean, as perhaps haven't helped you much, but really just the technology side of it. It's like, who the hell has time to sit on Facebook for 4 hours a day, please? What the devil are you doing? It's just like, if you do,
That's why I retired from Borough.
it's just like not a thing you do. And it's just that we need to look at other ways of getting to people, because and clearly we're not doing it right if we have a survey which has 20,000 people who could respond to it, and we've got 22 responses. I mean, that's just bonkers, isn't it? Why are we even bothering doing that every year if that's the kind of response we're getting? And I hope to God we're not making any strategic decisions on the basis of 188 people in Wokingham who chose to respond.
But the thing is,
it's insane, isn't it?
Everything has to go through IT, and people don't like it for a start, and they blank out on it. A lot of them use email and things like that, but they don't want to be pushed into doing surveys where they've got to have passwords and everything else. And also, you brought out the amount of people and the ages of them. The older ones definitely don't want to have everything through on the internet. They are really anti it. As poor Matt knows, he has problems with that. Trying to sort it out. But no, it is very difficult for some people, and they blank out. It's not that they're stupid. They don't want to have to go through the internet every time.
I will explore whether I can remove the creating an account, because I think that definitely is removing one barrier.
Yeah.
I appreciate that's still online, but I can see if I can get that removed. If you've done it before, then I'll push for that. And
It's a different environment.
Yeah, I'll try.
And I don't necessarily mean politically wise. There was, my head, no offense to you, but the phrase all politicians of all parties talk about is a council officer-led or councillor-led. You go back 10 years ago or so, the balance was, I would say, marginally councillor-led.
Right.
I would say now it's quite, in certain areas, highways would absolutely be one of them. It's more and more officer-led.
Okay.
And the problem with that is that disconnects a channel of what's going on out there, what people view, which is councillors, town and borough councillors.
Yeah.
And town and borough councillors can also be a block. If they know what's going on through communication, and often we're the ones who get the first contact from Mrs. Higgins, from Acacia Avenue about an issue. If we know what's going on, or we can get the answer, we answer it, which means one less phone call, or one less email, one less visit by that resident to Shoot End, which then will be 3 or 4 visits because of the responses, etc. And then we say, if the borough says, well, we're swamped because we've got so much, it's cut out. a fantastic voluntary arm, and that's happened over the last probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. I guess I can't comment on
No.
that, and also having not been in the council that long myself, so I don't really I can comment on that. But just picking up on your point about having paper surveys, I'm happy to talk to comms and everybody and see whether that's something I can do. Being completely honest, one of the things that worries me about a paper one, and maybe you guys can help me, would be I'm going to have to collate all those paper copies. And so if we were to find ourselves with 300, which would be awesome, I've got a couple of days potentially, do you know what I mean, to try and work through those. So if you feel like paper would be good, would you guys help me collate that maybe?
Well, we have the same, the answer is we all have the same constraints that you have. The real question is, how much validity do you want to put into a survey? You know, and that will come, that includes.
Isn't always to say to people, go to paper, because we can say, I don't want to do it. Yeah, well, tough, because it's the 21st century. What we need to do is make it easier for people to access systems. So, I mean, we could have a couple of terms here.
We, just to say, we've got one in the town council reception. We have a PC there that, whilst it's not used regularly, if people need assistance while they're there, they can log on. So if there was no requirement to put a password and username in, it would make it easy for people to come sit down and do it there, and we can obviously do someone there to help.
That would work better, because obviously when they're all online, it all does this sorting and collating effectively for me, which makes life a lot quicker and easier. So yes,
So there's different solutions to it. It's just addressing, accepting that there is an issue there. And as I say, we have got data to show there is an issue. People aren't responding to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you think all the surveys, I mean, the surveys all come out through, I mean, I get all the woken newsletter things now. I think, it's like thousands of people getting this, and they're still not responding. So we need to kind of understand that better. Because as I say, otherwise it's a bit of a waste of time asking people their opinion. And doesn't people tell you? And they'll be the people who are most exercised. So it's not quite working, is it?
No, and I agree with you. So that's some really good feedback. So I will go away and look at this.
You're not going to get thousands of, you get 300 from people on the paper. I think it would be very.
How many did you get?
Our leisure centre survey got nearly 1,400 people.
Yeah, it would be. So it can be done. It's really good.
Without passwords, without etc. But I bounce it back to you that you haven't got the resources to put those in. What happens if you got, for argument's sake, 5,000? You're going to just hit the button and rely on what the system tells you. You're not going to look at any of that in detail. You think the same?
I would, I mean, absolutely. But what it will do, a system, is some of the stuff where it's tick boxes, it will be able to just produce charts to say 50%, 60%, that kind of thing. Obviously, the places where we've put free text, yes, I'm going to have to sit and read all and I will absolutely read all those free texts to kind of ascertain what it is and what people are saying, because that's where I think a lot of the richness is. But it is going to be time consuming. But I want that because I want people to fill it in. I do genuinely want, and I hear what you're saying about surveys being important, they are, and we did spend quite a bit of time wondering about a survey because we know that they're difficult, but it is a way potentially of reaching quite a few people. So we did a business engagement session this morning, and what I said is, I'm happy to turn up to other meetings and things like that are going on to kind of reach different groups, and we're going to try our best reach as many people as we can really and hear what they have to say. And what I would say is I will send out the slides to you. Please, if you have any thoughts around almost your vision of what you want, if you think of it after this meeting, please email me and let me know, because I do genuinely want to try and make sure that this strategy and this vision for Woodley is actually what you want. Because then when it comes to delivering it, I kind of want you guys to help me work with us in terms of partnership of how we actually go about bringing it to life. And I think what's really, good for me is to hear that actually I think we're all quite aligned around the arts and culture. and that actually that's a real opportunity for Woodley. So I think that's a real positive. But I'll take away what you've said about pride of place, and make sure we look at what we can do about that for you as well.
Last thing from me, a personal thing. I don't want to see the bulldozers coming in, raising all those buildings to the ground and building up like the working town.
Oh, no.
The reason why I say that, it's a very practical reason. If you do that, we'll lose Waitrose, we'll lose Iceland, we'll lose Boots, because they're not going to hang around for a 3-year development plan or whatever. What we need to find some way, the Waitrose end is not too bad, because that's the more modern. It's this end, and I don't know if it's physically possible, but it's just the front that looks horrible.
Yeah.
If there was some way of sort of slicing the front off and putting a new front on it, it would, I think it would turn the corner, you know.
Okay, no, thank you. I appreciate I've overrun by quite a bit.
This is important.
Good. Is there anything else anyone wants to sort of share with me now? As I said, you will have my email details, so you can contact me afterwards.
We'll send those slides out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys.
Any plans for a new career? Well,
Me?
no, not for you. You know, like you did last time, you know, you had the job.
The job fair, absolutely. I was meant to be doing one in Wokingham in September, and then back here, my plan is with you guys in January. Unfortunately, because we have lost quite a few members of our team, I'm not able to do my Wokingham one this month. But we should be still online to do the one in January here if you'll have us back, because it was really successful. So
do you need to ask that question?
I hope you'd have us back. So yeah, and that one probably be a bigger, better one, because we haven't been able to do the Wokingham one. So hopefully some of those employers will come to this one.
It was good. It was
Yeah.
good to see.
It was good, and we had some actual job outcomes from it as well.
Did you?
Yeah, great, because actually we took somebody on directly from it. And there were quite a few interviews as well that were arranged on the day or follow up. So there were probably more that we're just not aware of. But no, it was a successful day. So absolutely.
So can I just say, on behalf of the town council and the councillors here, apart from me being slightly late, thank you for this.
No worries.
This is the sort of interaction that the town councillors and this council have been looking for a long time.
Yes.
You know, and I think every one of us would want to go, you know, sleeves up and get in there and interact with you.
Thank you. That's what I want. I feel, as I said, I know I've said it and I'll say it again, that this town centre strategy is the first step. And it's then how we work together to actually bring things to reality, and understanding the fact that there are constraints. You know, I don't have a big pot of money to go, I can chuck money at this. And I also don't have a really big team of people. So, you know, it's being realistic in what we can do, but looking to find what grants we might be able to find, what different things we can do, you know, together, and hopefully we can make some differences.
And there's always possibility of a small amount of money that we can contribute or a loose change. No, if there was a joint project or whatever.
Right, well, thank you very much for having me. I'm going to home now, if that's all right.
If you got out of bed at 5 o'clock this morning,
I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. I had presented at 7 o'clock.
we had a breakfast meeting.
In Malta, I got up at 7 o'clock this morning. Oh, yes, we did. Potential.
All right, yeah.
Cheers.
Fine. Yeah, like these.
Right. Okay. Right. So we're starting.
So yes, we didn't start the meeting.
Yeah, we have to
just
start
done the just that presentation.
Prior to the meeting, so yeah.
Any apologies?
We have apologies from councillors Anderson, Chadwick, Horskins, Rowland and Swaddle. Both councillors Horskins and Rowland are attending the meeting virtually.
But not visually.
It's visible on there. She is attending on here.
Okay, great. Any declarations of interest? No. Minutes of meeting held on the 11th of June 2024. Minutes for providing the council agenda. Can I approve those?
Yeah.
All those in favour, please show. Fine. Okay, I'll do that afterwards. Minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on 6th of August 2024. To approve the minutes of the Strategy and Resources Committee held on the 6th of August. It's that one, isn't it? The nature of this was to discuss a personnel matters, wasn't it?
And catering.
And the catering. So can I sign those? All those in favour, please show.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I'll do that afterwards. Actions, follow-ups, page 16.
Yes, obviously all the updates are there. There is one further update on page 18 under minute 89B, which is the Chapel Hall. That has been painted. I drove off with us. That has been painted. So that is now complete.
Can I update on two of those items, which have just come up a little more recently? So minute 48, in relation to the water station in the town centre, that has moved on, and we're in the process of applying for the appropriate section 171 licence for the unit to be installed. So we had a very initial meeting with Rotary. We're happy with the unit, and we'll be paying for the unit and installation. So it's just got the permissions to actually do a bit of work, so we'll update on that as it moves on. And the second update was in relation to Weagle Park at 76. I have since received a response since the agenda went out. The answer being no to an asset transfer. There is an offer of a longer term lease and an offer to consider an offer from the town council to purchase the land if that's something we wish to do. What I'll do is bring out a full report to the next strategy and resources meeting so that a decision can be made on going forward.
So how is council when they say no to the transfer of the asset, but we can buy it?
They won't transfer.
So doesn't that mean then you transfer the asset?
Well, under an asset transfer, it would happen without the purchase.
Okay.
So the answer is lease or.
And I'm sure they're going to charge us an awful lot of money for not only the land, but also all the equipment that we've already paid for, installed and maintained.
Offer them £1.
Yeah. Offer them £1.
Well, let's wait and let's not talk about it now. Let's wait until you get the you put the paper together.
Yeah.
That will be an interesting one. Anything else?
No.
On the water refittings, I saw a comment on Facebook about how good the one in the leisure centre is, except that the bowl for the dog, which is, I could think, permanently fixed to the wall or something, vandals decided if they couldn't get it off the wall, they turned it upside down and jumped on it and smashed it all up.
Okay, well, sort that.
Can we do it as concrete or something? Right, okay, thank you. Is there any other questions or comments on that? This list ever going to get smaller? Ever take anything, because it's now 4 pages and.
We keep having actions to do, but the you'll see that obviously there's been quite a couple of moved and things like that. We've got some IT infrastructure information which we're now in a position, having done that,
to completed article next time.
Okay, it's fine. But it seems like you've got it under control. Finance, agenda item 6, budgetary control, page 20.
Yes, so their expenditure tracking slightly below the 33% at this point in the year. What you notice there, one that's slightly out of kilter, energy and maintenance costs over 33% at the Oakwood Centre. That's been thrown out by some energy billing, which we're waiting for a final credit note, which will bring that back down. So it's back in kilter. As it been re-invoiced the entire year.
Which line is that? Sorry.
So it doesn't show as energy there, it just comes under Oakwood Centre expenditure.
Okay.
And has a
Yeah.
number of
Yeah,
smaller
okay.
codes within it, so that's what's offset that one slightly. In terms of income, where you would expect that to be in terms of being over, income slightly under on Oakwood Centre, where we have a quieter June and July compared with the same period in last year.
We need to keep a close eye on that.
Yeah, one of the things we'll come on to later because we've got the IT stuff, but one of the key things that we need to move towards is a better reporting package so that we can run and videos specifically much better than we do at the moment. I'll take that.
Any questions on
I
that?
hope you don't think I'm being picky, but community grants, presumably if we spent 1,560 against a budget of 3,000, then the percentage should be nearer 5%.
Oh, no,
Should be zero,
my
shouldn't it?
calculations, I've not updated it, sorry, I just noticed.
Well, I do remember that Ash has just had a heart.
I had fun with it somehow.
Looked like you had a good time.
I didn't say that.
If there isn't any other questions, that's just to note. Note the payments set out in Appendix 6B.
Noted.
Noted. Anne's not here, so pretty much. Any questions at all? No? All right. So that's noted. And then the final piece here is the CCLA funding stuff.
Okay, build those with at the moment.
Doing well?
Yes.
Good. Any questions for?
No.
Noted with satisfaction, Chairman.
9% increase. That's good, isn't it? 9% current climate. Right. So that's the note. Now we go to the agenda item 7. Oakwood Centre income, bookings and room hire, page 29. So is there anything?
Yeah, just to note, we have the two charts there on pages 29 and 30. So room, as I've just mentioned, room hire is tracking slightly below budget, as is catering at this point. It was a sluggish July, June and July for the centre, so we are looking at that. There are a few late payments to come in, which will change that as well. Just to note on that, from the extraordinary meeting, the only partner to buy the committee on Oakwood business on Saturday just gone. They've got off to a really good start and worked really closely with our maintenance team during the very short closure period to do just work in the kitchen area and in the front space. So you can put an entirely new serving counter. There's new equipment gone in, excellent everything.
Really good.
Moved electrics, everything in the space of that short period of time, while we also have a lot of toilets worked on in the centre. A really good winner there, a very good, successful opening, and yeah.
Good.
Any idea of roughly how many people came through the door that day?
Oh, wow.
I don't.
It must have been hundreds when we were there in this morning. It was literally packed. Park run people and a lot of the ordinary people. It was.
Jamie and Crumbs have got a good reputation.
Yeah.
Lovely.
They ran out of cakes before the end of the day and she'd been cooking all on Friday. Fantastic. It was really very successful, I think.
Any questions at all for either of those? Woodley Town Centre Partnership, to receive the report, see page 31. Got the town centre manager here, but
I can go through it if you want, or I'll give you some.
No, it's all right.
Anybody have any questions on anything there?
No.
CCTV.
Don't forget the French market this Friday.
CCTV, yeah, just to know, actually, I can update on that. I've failed to get any input from Montfort Borough Council on a technical level for that. They basically come back and said they don't have anybody who can do that, which is fine. I have sent the information to the Second President at Thames Valley Police, who was very interested in doing that. I know he'd been away on holiday, but I'm going to chase him for that because I want them to be happy with a bit of kit.
Yeah.
And put some information forward about what the software looks like for the viewing software.
Got the money?
Yes, I can give you an update on the money. Nikki was sitting there. I asked her this question this morning. She has actually got it, not literally in her pocket, but she has got the money. So we're basically just waiting to decide who we're going to do it. She wants a little bit of detail about who's going to be doing it, and then they'll release the 15,000. Yeah, but we've sent several emails to Stephen Conway and various other people at the council, and yeah, Nikki did confirm this morning that she has actually been told she has now got the money herself.
And do we know whether that is an addition to the normal grant or a replacement?
Well, that's what they've said. It's an additional money, and it was made clear in the email. So yeah,
Okay, that's good.
Can we be reminded, Chairman, where the monitoring of the images will take place? Is it going to?
It's in this building, so
This building, good.
the transmitted wirelessly to here, and then in the secure room, so it won't be visible to anybody.
All the tenderees or whatever it is, we're going to do that.
Yes.
We've got to be careful. We can't prejudge
No,
who we're going to choose.
that was the specification. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's good. Good. If there's nothing else, thank you, Brian.
thank you.
Thank you for your help.
I go. You leave me now?
Dismissed.
Dismissed.
Capital projects and earmark reserves, page 34. Oh, finance today. Hang on, let's wait. Do you want to do the question and then come back?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, well,
you can ask him, yeah.
I was just going to ask about, because we had this discussion about, the paving and all the rest of it. I noticed they're digging up on that corner.
Yes.
Were you aware of that?
No, not until I saw it this morning.
Because I asked officers about 3 months ago about the flooding which is happening just outside Parkside Family Practice. Because whenever it rains, there's, like you said about the swimming pool, about the car park. It rained heavily. We've had, heavy rainfall over the last 2 or 3 days. And usually it's just one side of it you can't walk through. So it was right across. So I've raised it with officers. Nothing's done about the thing I've raised, but then they're digging up another corner where that hasn't been raised by anyone, as far as I'm aware. So, it's like,
Officer.
yeah, it's like,
Okay.
she's talking about cafe culture. And, they're the ones who put this low wall at short notice around the middle of the,
No. Let's not go there.
right.
Is that going to become the Woodley graveyard, by the way, the 30th?
Right, okay.
Pleased to know. We're going
Oh, brilliant.
Right.
Okay, let's get back to the agenda.
Good night.
Good night.
Agenda item 8, page 31.
If I page 34.
34.
Projects, yeah, just to note, there's the you'll note it says the number of projects now completed. The most significant of which is notable is the centre toilet refurbishment, which was completed on time, on budget, and is
Fantastic.
anyone's been to the Louvre lately. You have experienced that, so we're very happy.
Were they officially opened by the mayor?
It was discussed.
And the peeling prospect.
Well, toilet paper.
Oh dear.
That's great, because that's been needed doing for a long.
It's very nice, but I think you should put some instruction, because everybody's looking for how to get the water out the taps. And then someone comes in, oh, I know it, there's a tiny little button on the bottom. Everybody's standing there trying to get the water. A little note saying, please press the button by help.
Sensor.
It's very swish, but you know, people sort of put their hands underneath it and they think, oh, try and pick it up, and it doesn't work.
Science, because they're everywhere.
So that was just a note.
You've got,
So on item B, there's a more in-depth report about capital investment, which I can say something about. So moving on to the report on page 35, which details some proposed projects for funding in some slightly different ways. Those three areas being IT infrastructure projects by way of an allocation from the general reserve to an enhanced reserve. There's a number of smaller projects there proposed to be funded from the existing capital programme in the enhanced reserve. That's money already allocated, but then we split it up into smaller projects during the year. And a third one, which is to improve spending from the existing SIL community infrastructure levy earmarked reserve for works to replace the breaches in the theatre, which theatre work we were talking about earlier on is kind of more urgent element of that, because we've got which is out of action at the moment, which is hindering us in being able to rent it out. And that will be the first phase of that bit of work, and it's just more urgent than the rest of this. That's the reason that that's there. If I could just go through those to give a bit more context. Proposal 1 relating to IT infrastructure, we're partnering for a significant upgrade, which has massively improved and changed the way we work and communicate and the efficiency of our systems. At this point in the project, some of that's been funded from the repairs and renewals budget, so we're already partway through that project and been funding it. What we found is that the further upgrades that we feel important to do within this year, which is specifically software for the finance and booking software, and there's a number of applications around that we want to get online, ready and running for the start of the new financial year. Otherwise, we're a year behind before we can actually do that second piece of work. So that's what that's about. What I'm proposing is the allocation of £16,000 to an earmarked reserve for that purpose, for that project. What we would do is actually move the expenditure that we've had so far into that earmarked reserve to free up the repairs and renewals budget for expenditure during the year, and that would keep, from an accounting perspective, we keep it all in one place, and we did that. That whole project will be delivered within that earmarked reserve amount. So that allocation will be from the general reserve, and the balance at the start of the year, 1st of April, stood at 788,000. I don't know, do you want to do these one at a time, Chair, or do you want me to go through the other proposals?
So we have to vote on.
They will be voted.
I'm taking guidance. Can we take them on? If you've read it already, I'm not saying we do it now, but later. Do you want to vote on each one as we go, or wait until Kevin's?
Happy to vote on each one. I'm happy to approve that.
Right. All those in favour, please show.
Proposal 2 relates to the capital programme. So this identifies a number of smaller projects to be funded from the existing capital programme reserve. So that money is already in that earmarked reserve. What we're looking at there is 8 segregated recycling litter bins, which we've been trialling at the Lone Park, for Woodford Park, which helping for some of our aspirations in the climate management plan. There's some items related to the 3G pitch, which is replacement of the divider netting, which is in poor shape. Obviously, the original one started really, really well. That funding will enable us to replace that and also carry out some contracted work that's been recommended on the pitch surface to help us to lengthen the life of the pitch carpet. There's the purchase of a new scarifier, which is the unit that aerates the ground for the sports pitches and helps with drainage, so that we keep sports pitches going through the season. There's a tractor counterweight, we have a significant weight on the tractor to counterweight units being pulled on the back. It's not up to current guidelines, which have changed over time. This is quite an older unit, it needs a proper unit on it rather than the one that is on there currently, so that's why that's there. and a storage container down the yard, whether there is space for it. What that would be used for essentially is storage of the Christmas lighting, which is currently stored in the loft space up here, which is not really all right. Causes a lot of problems for the contractor coming in, getting stuff in and out. Causes problems for us to send people up into a space that's not really designed for it. And actually, if we can store that securely and safely and in the dry down at the yard, that will make that whole project much easier as well.
Yes.
All of those allocations would leave a small balance in that earmarked reserve of £1,777.
Agreed. You're happy to approve.
I'm happy to approve.
Yep.
All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Yes, and finally, proposal 3, which is the winches I mentioned earlier. Those winches need replacing. The current ones are not to replace. It looks like a lot of money. It's not just the winches; it's actually all of the winch mechanism, the steel cable pulleys, and all the attachments for the lighting bars across the whole of the theatre. The quote that we've got at the moment looks to be around 23,000 for that piece of work. What I'm proposing is that that may well come down when we actually get to it. What I'm proposing is that be met primarily from the civil earmarked reserve that we already have in place, which is legitimate spend for that. It helps us to spend civil money because we then have tons that are attached to us spending that. There's 21,530 in that earmarked reserve at the moment. It may well come in under that. The proposal here is that if it does go slightly over, that the rest of that will be met from the Oakland Centre building earmarked reserve, which currently has just over £21,000 in it as well. Hopefully, it'll be that from the civil reserve.
Any questions, comments, or can I go straight to the vote?
Straight to vote.
Happy to approve that one.
All those in favour, please show. Thank you. So, next, Climate Emergency Action Plan update, page 37. Who's going to lead us through
I'm
this?
going to lumber Matthew with that.
No, that's fine. So as we provided in the last meeting, we provided the outstanding actions from the strategy document we had earlier in the year. The updates are in red on here. I suppose the most significant updates really for us at the moment is our working on our community engagement project with Woking Borough Council. That will be our Climate Action Week, which is happening in November to coincide with COP29. So that's running from Monday the 18th to Saturday the 23rd of November. We are going to be starting publicising that around about the beginning of October. A leaflet will be going out with the Herald that will explain the events that we've got running. At the moment, we're hoping to have in the region of probably up to around 15 events running during that week. That residents will be able to attend, all free of charge. There may be a booking on there just so we know for numbers, but it should all be free of charge. We'll be offering some incentives as well to try and get people engaged and come along to the events. So that's probably the biggest project that's coming out in there. Otherwise, yes, all the other kind of updates are in there. You'll know, obviously, the bonfire, the prohibition of bonfires at the allotment sites was updated following leisure services last week, so more work will be done on that. But a larger piece of work obviously needs to be done about waste management on the site. And just separately to this, we've had a senior leadership team meeting today about this document and what we need to do moving forward internally. So you're aware is make this more strategic in terms of the amount of work we're doing behind the scenes. So we need to look at this on a more regular basis as a team and try and provide some data for ourselves behind each of these tasks as to what the actual outcome of them might be for us. So as part of our carbon assessment that we're going through at the moment, we want to be able to attach to this what the actual outcome in terms of our climate ambitions are linked to each of these tasks. When we come up with cost provision and proposals for implementing some of them, we can also then compare the cost of it with the potential benefit to us as well from a climate point of view and make some more strategic decisions on that. So hopefully we'll have some more detail around this as we move forward.
Can we engage on the climate week? I don't know whether it's appropriate. Can we engage Nikki this would be a great way for Woking Borough Council to demonstrate that they're actually going to start taking Woodley seriously and get them on board to do publicity, etc.
So the week is a collaborative week between us and Woking Borough Council. It is going to be bannered as such, so there will be both logos on each. I've got another meeting with Wokingham's Climate Action Team tomorrow to discuss that. They have a number of events that they are going to be running at the library. They're going to run an event here. They're helping with my journey to collaborate some events as well. So that will all come under one banner. It will be a joint event. They will be promoting it in there. And it's going to be seen as almost the first borough-wide climate action week, because there's been nothing else in the borough like this at all, in collaboration with us. And their aim from this is to then hopefully use this as an example to roll out with other parishes and towns as we move forward.
And there's a little niggle in the back of my mind when you say this is the first Woking Borough-wide. It's actually us driving it. And I really would not want Woking Borough to turn around and take all the kudos of it.
What I would say is this
All the time.
This was presented earlier in the year as a collaborative climate action week event, and that was what was approved by this committee. So
now, I'm not saying we back off there. I'm just saying we need any communication about our Woodley Climate Action Week has to go through us and approved.
Yes.
So
No, exactly.
yeah. So maybe I'm just being a little bit cynical, but
What I would say,
No, I think you're right.
what I would say just to answer that, and I know that there's good reason for some, who've been a bit sceptical about it. What we've been seeing a little more lately at officer level from Woking Borough Council is them reaching out to work with us in that way, which is what we've been asking for, because it hasn't happened in the past.
No.
Is this though because they want to take over, they want to actually have the
I
kudos?
think that realistically that may well be in there, but if we don't grab that and use that to our advantage,
Yes.
and make those things work, then it's not going to work. We both need to be getting something out of it. And what I would say is that this is exactly what we were talking about, specifically with the climate action plan right from the start, about where does Woodley fit into the borough scheme? How does this stuff fit together? You know, we're not reinventing this stuff and sort of fighting Wokingham on it. And what we have had is some conversations which we haven't had in the past with officers from Wokingham. It was the guy that came to the.
But you know, I will be very angry if after this because it will be highly successful, because he does things in a very highly successful way, that the press releases, etc., that go out from Woking Borough Council saying Woking Borough Council in conjunction with Woodley Town Council did this, and I think it's only reasonable, if they are going to mention us, we should have the ability to review that.
Should be equal.
So what I would just say, I'd agree on that, and we've worked very closely with them on the information so far. We are actually the ones really leading it and pushing it. We've made them very much aware that in terms of any publicity, it must be seen as a entirely joint event on those grounds. What I would also say is all of the events that are being run here will be publicised on our website, on a kind of either a page or a directory that has each individual event and all the details of it. All the leaflets and the publicity will have a QR code or a link, which will direct through to that for more information. That is being run and hosted by us on our website. So all the information that will go out from Woodley will point towards that. We need to finalise exactly what that's going to look like tomorrow. That's one of my aims tomorrow to work out. But really, the publicity is going to be driven by us. Anusha's going to be driving a lot of that, and that will be it. And we'll almost be piggybacking on that. Okay. Which, from our point of view, everything is going to be branded as us, in collaboration with Woking Borough Council, as opposed to Woking Borough Council in conjunction.
That's the way I see it. I'm just being very, very cautious, because I've seen that we do an awful lot here that doesn't get any. Take the green flag. Yeah. We're the only area in the whole of Woking Borough that's had not just one green flag, but multiple green flags. So does working in Borough Council ever actually say, look, what's going on? No. And I'm just being cautious.
I agree. Yeah,
But
we want the town council to start being one of the first places they come to start doing events like that, because there's no reason we shouldn't be there, rather than, as you said before, working every time. So I think this is a really good example, and I know that the team.
I'm sure that, we just want to have the ability to review any press releases they put out, and vice versa. It's two ways.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay. Oh, then the other thing, or just the only thing on cover, the split recycling boxes, the 8 recycling. We should put out, I think, a press release on that, because everybody's crying out, but for everywhere, working on borough and everywhere else, to actually start being a little bit more intelligent in having that split. And if, again, I think, potentially, I may be wrong, I think we're leading the way again, and we should be banging our drum.
Yeah.
We should.
We're the first town council in working on borough to do this.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sorry. No. Future agenda items. Anything?
No.
By the way, you don't need to wait until this meeting to provide them. Feed them in order.
I talked to Kevin last week. What about hearing loops within our public buildings? We don't have one in this building, and we don't have one in Coronation Hall. There are an awful lot of people who have problems with hearing. And did you by any chance find out there were little ones that we could?
I've got some information I can send you in relation to that. And
Thank you.
just on that, that is something I'm looking into specifically for this building, about how we manage that in which rooms we use for the meetings, and how we would manage that going forward, because we should have that for
we should.
Council.
It's really important.
We shouldn't bar any resident, regardless.
Now, I noticed that, well, I had a lady from the over 50s saying that she couldn't come because she couldn't hear. And we've got a microphone. And, I said, well, I'll see the town council about it, because it definitely shouldn't.
It sounds like Kevin's got it in hand.
Yes, he has.
Right. Publicity and website, anything? No? Here we go. We now need to vote on agenda item 13 to resolve that, in line with Standing Order 12.2, in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted in relation to legal matters, it is advisable in the public interest that the public and press are temporarily excluded, and they are asked to withdraw for item 14 on the agenda. All those in favour, please show. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You just have to stop the live stream.